Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, December the 2nd. We just got a little 5-game Thursday slate, but as always guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each game on this 5-game slate, kind of break down each team, give my early thoughts, what I do like, looking at this slate on Wednesday night. And then as we do go through each game, we'll kind of build out an early core, 5 guys that do stand out to me on Draftkings and on Yahoo. Now, as always, these are my first look at this slate. With a sport like NBA, there's constant news coming out during the day. This is a slate where right now we don't have a ton of question marks. I don't think there's really anyone questionable outside of like Gary Trent and Norman Powell. Some of these questionable guys don't have too big of an impact on the slate. But, with NBA, guys that aren't on the injury report can get ruled out randomly. We see it happen all the time. I do provide a lot more updated content on Patreon. My full updated core plays, those are posted on Patreon. I also have my positional plays where I list off my favorite plays at each position. I have my rankings, my top 20 plays of the day, ranked in order of interest. Then I also have my Discord chat where you can join. You can ask me questions throughout the day up until lock, even after lock. I'm always in Discord to answer your guys' questions. That's all available for Patreon members. I also do give out some of my favorite plays on PrizePicks each day, and PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. If you guys have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, you want to check them out. They're more of a player prop based DFS site, so it's very simple. You're just picking the over or the under on players' projections. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks. You can mix and match sports. You can win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. Since it's Thursday night, we do have Thursday night football, so if you want to get some picks in for the Thursday night football game, you can do a couple of those. You can do a couple NBA picks, pair them together. PrizePicks is really fun, man. I've been playing really heavy on PrizePicks lately. A lot of my volume's been on PrizePicks as of late. So if you want to check them out, sign up, use code Noah, make some picks for tonight's NBA slate, or if you want to do NFL, whatever sport you want to try, you can do it on PrizePicks because they have just about every sport imaginable. But yeah, check them out. Sign up, use code Noah, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. But let's take a look at Thursday's 5-game slate. We're going to start off with the Bulls and Knicks game. So the Bulls on this slate are not really a team that I'm too interested in. They're fully healthy right now. They got Vooch back. They got Zach LaVine healthy. When this team is fully healthy, I've been saying it all season, they're just a tough team to, gauge where to go. That doesn't mean that Vooch or LaVine or DeRozan, that doesn't mean these guys can't have good games. Obviously they can, but where they're priced at, most of these guys are above 9K. You're going to need 50 plus DraftKings points from Vooch to, be a good play at his price tag. Could he put up 50 points here? I mean, he definitely could, but he's not really going to project well at his salary. Same could be said for DeMar DeRozan. I just don't see too much that stands out from Chicago. I think really you're just looking at tournament plays here. I do think this will be a team that doesn't really get much ownership. So if you want to play Zach LaVine or DeRozan or Vooch in tournaments, it's fine. But I don't see too much I really like here, honestly. The Bulls are a team I just don't think I'm going to be rostering that heavily. On the Knicks side, though, the Knicks are a team I think I do have a little bit more interest in. Julius Randle, 9,500, I think will be a fairly low owned. This is a shorter slate, only 5 games, so most of these guys are going to get some ownership, but I don't think Randle will be like massive chalk or anything. He really hasn't been owned that much at all lately, just because he's kind of been struggling. But he did get back, he did look good last game against Brooklyn. Played 40 minutes, nearly had a triple-double. 49 DK points, was a rebound and 2 assists shy of a triple-double. We talked about Randle in that video. He was my cover boy that day. I thought it was a really good matchup against Brooklyn. I like playing stars like this whenever they, start to struggle. Like whenever a player has a couple bad games and people just want to, people are just done playing him. That's when I like to get on a player because, we know these guys still have a lot of upside. We saw that from Julius Randle whenever that was, Tuesday against Brooklyn when he had almost 50 DK points. I do like this spot against the Bulls. The Bulls are a team that they're good defensively, but you can definitely beat them down low. And we've seen Julius Randle do well in this matchup so far this year. They faced the Bulls twice already. He's averaged almost 50 DraftKings points through 2 games against them. So definitely like Julius Randle here. I think he's a pretty solid play on this slate. I don't know if he'd be a priority pay-up option for me, but he's a guy that I do have interest in. He probably is my favorite play overall in this game. I think Alec Burks is definitely viable. His price has come up, though, to a point where he's not as much of a standout option, but, man, the last 2 games, he's played massive minutes. He started last game at point guard. He's going to continue to start at point guard for the foreseeable future, and he played 39 minutes once again. He was really productive, had 46 DK points, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Took a lot of shots, got good usage. That's obviously something we like to see. The only issue I have with Burks is he's 6,500 now. 6,500, you're going to need a 35, 40-point game from him to be a good play at his price tag. I still think he does have 35, 40-point upside. It's just, now that he's priced where he is, he's not as much of a standout play anymore. I still think he's in play, though. RJ Barrett's questionable, so this is kind of important. If RJ Barrett does get ruled out, I think that would definitely benefit Burks. I think Burks would probably play close to 40 minutes again. And then I don't know what they would do with the starting lineup. I think in the second half, I can't remember who it was that started. I think it was Quentin Grimes started the second half in place of Burks. He didn't really play much, though. I think he only played like 3 minutes. He barely played in the second half. Let me see. I'm pretty sure it was Quentin Grimes. I don't think there was anyone else. Yeah, it was Quentin Grimes, but he just barely played. So I don't know what they would do with the starting lineup if Barrett were to be out. They could start Obi Toppin. They could just start Emmanuel Quickley. Emmanuel Quickley's been playing a ton lately. He played 38 minutes even off the bench last game. If he were to start in place of Barrett, he'd be an okay play at 5K. I think where he's priced at, he's also, not like a priority option, especially with Derrick Rose back. Derrick Rose is a high usage player, a guy that's going to take away, shots. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. It's going to take away from Quickley, but if Quickley's going to continue to get these, heavy minutes, at 5K, he's still playable. I would definitely like him more, though, if RJ Barrett were to be ruled out. And then Derrick Rose last game, first game back, from his injury, he played 35 minutes. He was, heavily involved, 36 DK points. We know Derrick Rose is a productive player when he's on the floor. If he plays 35 minutes again, at 4,800, he is definitely a good value. I don't think it's a guarantee he plays that many minutes, but if RJ Barrett were to be ruled out, that would just, really tighten up this Knicks rotation. They ran a really tight rotation last game. We saw Randall, Burks play heavy minutes. We saw Quickley play heavy minutes. Rose played heavy minutes. I think Fournier only played 22 minutes. That could change today. He could go back up to playing like 30, 35 minutes. It's just going to, depend on how he's playing. But this Knicks team lately, they've been running a pretty tight rotation. I think if RJ Barrett were to be ruled out, you would see pretty big minutes for Burks, Quickley, and Rose. I would have a good amount of interest in all three of those guys. The rest of the Knicks, though, probably not going to go to. Now the bigs are all healthy, now that Noel and Robinson and Gibson are all healthy, I really don't like any of the bigs. Mitchell Robinson played 25 minutes last game, still only had 20 DK points, just hasn't been that productive this year. He's going to be splitting time with Noel. I think for me, it's really just the guys we talked about. You're going to have to wait and see with RJ Barrett. If he does get ruled out, that'll make, a lot of these Knicks, look a lot better, especially since, with Kemba Walker out of the rotation now, you're seeing, very, like I said, a very concentrated rotation. And if RJ Barrett were to be ruled out, the rotation would just get even tighter, and you would see heavy minutes for the guys that played heavy minutes last game. I think we could expect to play heavy minutes once again. But that's it for this game. We can move on to the next one, talk about the Bucks and the Raptors. So the Bucks are on a back-to-back today. Kind of important. Keep an eye on the injury report. I'm assuming everyone will be good to go, but you never know with Milwaukee. We've seen them rest guys on back-to-backs this year. But assuming everyone plays, Giannis at 12K, on a 5-game slate, I think Giannis is obviously a really good option here. It was a great spot for him against Charlotte Wednesday night. We kind of talked about how if the game stayed close, Giannis was absolutely going to smash, and surely enough, he played 38 minutes. It was a close game. It was a super high-scoring game. Put up almost 70 DraftKings points, had 40 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. Look, Giannis, any slate he's on, he's going to be a top pay-up option. This matchup on the road against Toronto may not be as good as it was, Wednesday against Charlotte, but I still think Giannis has massive upside here. If the game stays close, I expect him to play big minutes once again. Giannis is for sure my favorite play from Milwaukee. Drew and Middleton and Portis, don't really like them at their price points. Even on a shorter slate like this, they don't really stand out to me. I think it's just Giannis from Milwaukee, and that's probably it, to be honest with you. Now, on the Toronto side, this is another team kind of similar to the Knicks. Like, we know where the minutes are going to go on Toronto. Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, like, these guys are just going to play a ton of minutes. 42 minutes in regulation for Fred Van Vliet last game. Pascal Siakam was in foul trouble, but he still played 30 minutes even though he was in a lot of foul trouble. And Scotty Barnes played a ton as well, 38 minutes for him. With Gary Trent out lately, we're just seeing all three of those guys play a ton. If Gary Trent were to be out again, you'd probably get close to 40 minutes from all of Van Vliet, Siakam, and Barnes. They're all priced to a point where even if they do play 40 minutes, they're not guaranteed to hit value. We've seen, still somewhat of a lower floor on those guys, but the ceiling is definitely there. When you're playing that many minutes, there's going to be games where you go for 50, 55 DK points. The matchup against Milwaukee, I don't love it. Milwaukee this year, pretty good defensively. They are playing at a relatively fast pace, though. Milwaukee's always been a pretty fast-paced team. I think more tournament plays here, but Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, just given how many minutes they're going to play, they definitely are viable on the slate. And then if Gary Trent's out again, Svi Mykhailiuk started last game in place of Gary Trent, but he only played 18 minutes, which was really random because he played 38 minutes the game before that. I'm assuming Svi Mykhailiuk plays like 30 minutes here if he starts again. But given that, his minutes went way down last game, I guess that's a little bit of a risk. I think it was Banton that got a lot of run off the bench. No, Banton only played 15 minutes. I don't really know who saw a lot of minutes. So Utah Watanabe played 29 minutes. Like, that's something that I don't know if that really happens again. But if Svi Mykhailiuk, if he were to start again, would be a viable cheap play. And then Precious Achiuwa at 4,600, he's going to start, play around 30 minutes. He's been really unproductive lately, which is normally not something we see. Like, when Achiuwa was on the Heat last season, like, he was really productive when he got minutes. But so far this year with the Raptors, hasn't been nearly as good on a point-per-minute basis. He's still been getting big minutes, though, and I think with Kim Birch out, with OG Anunoby out, like, we're going to see Precious play relatively big minutes on a nightly basis. It is concerning, how unproductive he's been lately. I do worry about the matchup. He'll probably see a lot of Giannis going up against him. We know Giannis is a guy that, will draw a lot of fouls. Precious Achiuwa will definitely pick up fouls. But at 4,600, with how many minutes he should get, he's going to be a viable cheap play if you want to go there. I don't know if there's going to be any core plays from Toronto, but there are some guys I would have, in my player pool for tournaments here. We can move on to the next game, talk about OKC and Memphis. So OKC, SGA 8,100. I think SGA looks like a pretty good option on this slate. There are a lot of good mid-range guard plays. You have CJ McCollum playing without Damian Lillard at a similar price point. You have Chris Paul playing without Devin Booker at a similar price point. But SGA 8,100 in a really good matchup against Memphis without Josh Giddey, who's going to be out once again for this game. I mean, SGA is definitely a strong play here. Memphis, one of the better matchups you can get this season. So far this year, Memphis has actually been dead last in defensive rating. They have been one of the worst defensive teams, and they're playing at the 11th fastest pace in the league. So really good spot for SGA. As long as the game is close, which, that's always a worry with OKC because OKC is just so bad. They're going to get blown out a lot. But with this Memphis team not having John Morant right now, I think this game is more likely to stay close than not. And if we get SGA to play 36, 38 minutes like he did Wednesday night against Houston, he's got 45, 50-point upside, especially with Josh Giddey off the floor. He's just going to dominate the usage, and we saw that on Wednesday. So I definitely like SGA. He is for sure my favorite play from the Thunder. Lou Dort, I think, gets a bump without Josh Giddey. Lou Dort's a guy that I really never play. I never like playing him. He's really never been a productive player. He's looked a little bit better, though, this year. He's been more productive this year, and I think his production should go up with Giddey off the floor. He took 13 shots. He's been shooting the ball relatively well this year. We know he's going to get defensive stats. He's a really solid defender. He should pick up a few more assists without Giddey, too. At 5,700, I think he's an okay option. He's for sure my second favorite play from OKC. Behind SGA. The rest of these guys I don't love. I will say that Trey Mann did start in place of Giddey on Wednesday, and he did actually play 32 minutes. He wasn't very productive, only had 13 DK points, but if he starts again, he probably plays 30 to 32 minutes. He's only 3,600. I think Trey Mann's going to be a guy that most nights he's not really going to crush. He's not going to be really productive when he's on the court, but the minutes are going to be there with Giddey out, and he's still really cheap. The matchup's really good. 3,600. We don't have a ton of great cheap value on the slate, so I think Trey Mann, assuming he starts again, he is definitely in play for value. SGA, Dort, and Mann are my three favorite plays from OKC. Outside of those guys, I don't think I'm going to be rostering any other Thunder on the slate. I think I'm going to just try and stick to probably those three. Now on the Memphis side, we know Memphis is going to continue to be without John Morant. So Jaren Jackson Jr., Dillon Brooks, Desmond Bane, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for these guys. We saw Jaren Jackson Jr. have a really good game last game against Toronto. Got up to 34 minutes, which was great to see. Was really productive, had 45 DK points. Triple J, always usually really relatively productive when he's on the court. It's just a matter of, foul trouble, man. We say it every slate. This is a guy that does struggle with fouls. He fouls a lot. But it's such a good matchup against OKC. OKC is a team that's just really bad defensively against big men. Power forwards and centers we've seen have big games this year against OKC. I definitely like Jaren Jackson Jr. here. I think his price is probably where it should be, but at 7,100, he still has upside in a really good matchup to pay off that price tag. Same with Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks played 33 minutes last game, which was a season high for him, I do believe. Yeah, most minutes he's played all season. Did not shoot the ball that well. 27% from the field, 20% from three. I'm still tilting about that because I had over 19.5 points on prize picks for Dillon Brooks, which I needed to hit my four pick power play. And of course, he scores 17 points. He comes up just short while shooting god-awful from the field. Dillon Brooks has never really been an efficient shooter, but he's going to take a lot of shots with Ja Morant out. We saw that last game. Even in the game against Sacramento where it was a blowout and he only played 21 minutes, he took 17 shots in 21 minutes. So he's going to get a ton of opportunity. The matchup's really good against OKC. I still think Dillon Brooks at 7K is viable. Not a standout play at his price tag, but viable. Same could be said for Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane should get some more shots coming his way. 6,400, he feels priced where he should be. But, the upside's there if he does, get hot and start knocking down shots. Tyus Jones at 5,500 should continue to start, probably play 30 to 35 minutes. He's never really been a super productive player when he's on the court. He's not a guy that really takes a lot of shots. Most of his, when Tyus Jones has a good fantasy game, it's usually because he racks up a lot of assists and he gets a lot of steals. At 5,500, he feels priced about right. I think these Memphis guys all have upside, but where they're priced at, none of them stand out as core plays today. I think Triple J is probably my favorite play overall from Memphis. Kyle Anderson's questionable. This will be something to monitor. Kyle Anderson normally does play around 20 to 25 minutes off the bench. If he were to get ruled out, I think there'd be more minutes available for Triple J. The main guys would be pretty secure for pretty big minutes. And then maybe you would see Brandon Clark get some more run. Brandon Clark only played 16 minutes last game, but he might get up to 20, 22 minutes if Kyle Anderson were to be out. 3,900, he'd be a viable cheap play. But I think that's probably it for Memphis, and we can move on to the next game. So last two games of the night, these are definitely two of my favorite games to target, especially because Phoenix going to be without one of their star players. Portland's going to be without Damian Lillard. So there's definitely some stuff to like from those two teams. But starting off on Detroit, not nearly as appealing of a team to roster here. I will say that Phoenix this year, they have been playing at a really fast pace. So far, Phoenix is playing at the fourth fastest pace in the league, so it is a big-time pace-up spot here for the Detroit guys. Cade Cunningham, I think if this game stays close and he plays his full minutes, Cade Cunningham has upside. We've seen him put up, I think he's had a triple-double this year. He's got triple-double upside. 7,900, though, just more of a tournament play at his price point. Same with Jeremy Grant. Saddiq Bey, a guy that I just never play, but he should get around 30 to 35 minutes if the game's close. I think at 5,500 he's playable. There's really not a ton of standout plays though from Detroit, and normally there never is. This team is just for the most part really unappealing to roster. If you're going to play any Pistons on this slate, you're probably just going to be looking at the main guys: Cunningham, Grant, maybe Saddiq Bey. On Phoenix though, this is where I think we can find a lot to like. So no Devin Booker for Phoenix today, which is going to make Chris Paul look like one of the better plays on the slate. I know his prices come up a little bit, but I still like Chris Paul a lot today. 8,600 on Draftkings and on Yahoo, $35. I think he looks like a really good play over there. So we saw last game, Chris Paul played a ton of minutes against Golden State. Devin Booker did get injured halfway through the second quarter in that game and did not return. So, Chris Paul got to play a lot of minutes last game without Booker on the court. And we saw him be really productive. Had 15 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, had 5 steals, 50 DraftKings points for Chris Paul in those 39 minutes. We've seen in the past whenever Booker's not on the court, and you can just look at the on-off splits. Whenever Booker's off the floor, you do get a little bit of a usage bump for Chris Paul. His fantasy production sees a pretty big spike as well. His assist numbers should be through the roof. Chris Paul is very likely to get you a points, assist, double-double here. He can get some rebounds as well. He can still triple-double. Chris Paul, at this point, he's at the later stages of his career. He's older now, but this guy still has fantasy upside. He can still be really productive when he's on the court. In a matchup against Detroit without Devin Booker, I like Chris Paul a lot today. I think he's one of the better mid-range guard options. And then I think DeAndre Ayton is 7,600. Looks like a great play as well. I think there should be more opportunity for him as well without Devin Booker. Maybe some more usage coming his way. Great matchup for him against Detroit. I think Ayton's a really good play on both sides too. Detroit's a team you can really beat down low. We've seen a lot of centers have big games against the Pistons this year. I don't expect anything to change Thursday night. Here I think we see a big game from DeAndre Ayton. We saw him do really well against Golden State on Tuesday, and that was a tougher matchup too because Golden State has been really good defensively against centers this year. They've been limiting fantasy points to opposing centers, and Ayton, he just went out there and crushed. Had 47 DraftKings points, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He should get maybe some more shot attempts, maybe some more. We'll see probably a lot of alley-oops. Him and Chris Paul running some pick and roll. I think you'll see a lot of that. 7,600. I still like DeAndre Ayton, even though his price also came up a little bit. He stands out as a really good center option today. Mikal Bridges at 5,700. I think his price is up to a point where he's not as much of a standout play. Maybe he sees a little boost without Booker, but I think, Paul and Ayton will be two of the biggest beneficiaries. And then you can look to some of these value guys. So we're going to have to wait and see who starts for Booker. I think the most likely scenario is that either Cam Johnson or Landry Shamet winds up starting in place of Booker. Landry Shamet's only 3,100. Never really been a super productive player on a point per minute basis. He's a really scoring dependent player. He's not going to do much outside of just shoot. But I think if Booker were to be out, you would probably see Shamet play close to 30 minutes. He played 24 minutes last game. Again, he's really scoring dependent, but he's only 3,100. If you need a cheap value play, I think Landry Shamet is definitely in play on the slate. And then Cam Johnson, I think whether he starts or not, probably plays more off the bench. He played 29 minutes last game against Golden State. I think he actually closed that game as well. Was pretty productive in those 29 minutes, had 27 DK points. Cam Johnson we saw be really good for the Suns in the playoffs last year, in their playoff run. And he's a key part of their bench. He plays 20 to 25 minutes most nights off the bench. I think without Devin Booker, we're going to see the minutes spread around for the most part. But Cam Johnson should be one of the guys that benefits in terms of increased opportunity off the bench. Maybe he gets some more shots up as well. Took 10 shots in that game against Golden State. He's always been a pretty efficient shooter. He's always shot the ball really well. We know Chris Paul, he's going to get these guys open shots. So at 4,200, I definitely like Cam Johnson for value. I think he's a pretty solid value at first look. He's minimum salary on Yahoo, so definitely like him over there. Only $10 at the power forward position. And then same could be said for Jay Crowder, 4,300. Jay Crowder, we know, is going to start, probably play around 30 minutes. I think Jay Crowder and Cam Johnson are very similar plays. I think they're going to project very similarly. I mean, you can play both of them if you want to, but I think both these guys are in play for value. Devin Booker being off is just, Devin Booker's such a, high usage player, a guy that takes a lot of shots that you're going to see more shot attempts for, most of these guys. Obviously, Chris Paul's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, but we know Chris Paul's a really good passer. We know he's going to get open looks for these shooters. So I definitely like Jay Crowder as a value play as well at 4,300. But I think that's probably it for Phoenix. I think we talked about really all the main guys. Maybe with Devin Booker out, we'll see some more minutes for Cameron Payne, but he only played 16 minutes last game. I don't know how much they really want to play Payne and Chris Paul alongside each other. For the most part this year, Cameron Payne's just kind of been like the backup point guard whenever Chris Paul comes out. Maybe he plays more alongside Paul here without Booker, but for 4,100, not a standout value play on this slate, I don't think. So we can move on to the next game, talk about the last game of the night, the Spurs and the Blazers. So looking at San Antonio here, Dejounte Murray, 9,800. Dejounte Murray at this point I think is in play almost every single slate. He just continues to crush every single night. He's playing big minutes every night. He's showing triple-double upside. I mean, he's got a triple-double. Again, he had a triple-double against Phoenix. Last game was 2 assists shy. Against Atlanta, he was 2 rebounds shy. The guy's got 55, 60-point upside. At 9,800, you kind of feel like you're overpaying for Dejounte Murray, but I really don't think you are. Like, he should be this price tag at this point. We've seen the upside for him. There's still somewhat of a low floor, I guess, but 45, 50-point upside, or even 55, 60-point upside, I should say, is on the table for Dejounte Murray, especially in a good matchup against a bad Portland defense. So Dejounte Murray, definitely my favorite play from San Antonio. I still do like Jakob Poeltl, though, at 6,100. As long as this game is close, I think Jakob Poeltl does play like 33, 35 minutes. For some reason, last game, he only played 25 minutes in a close game against the Wizards. I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter for some reason. I would expect that to change today. I would expect Poeltl to be out there if it's a close game. He was still really productive, though, even in 25 minutes, had 36 DK points. Jakob Poeltl's always been a relatively productive player when he is on the floor. He's around a fantasy point per minute player. At 6,100, if we expect him to play 30 to 32 minutes, he's going to project pretty well at this price tag. I still think he's a little bit underpriced. Poeltl and Murray are my two favorite plays from San Antonio. Murray and Johnson, or not Murray, but Derek White and Johnson, I think are fine. Neither one stand out, though, at their price tags. Vassell and McDermott, I think, are both questionable for this game. If they are out, maybe you could go to Lonnie Walker, but like his minutes have just been so up and down. I still don't feel great about him. I think I'm just going to be focusing on the main guys, Murray and Poeltl for sure, my two favorite plays from San Antonio. But now talking about Portland, real quick before we do end the video. So Portland, kind of a team you got to focus on here because Damian Lillard, once again, going to be out for the Blazers. We kind of know who benefits. We saw last game without Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum played really, really well, played 36 minutes, had 47 DraftKings points, took 26 shots. Like, he's just going to have the ball in his hands so much. He's going to, get a ton of usage without Lillard. He really didn't even have that great of a shooting game, but he still scored almost 50 DraftKings points just because the shot volume is going to be there. The ball's going to be in CJ McCollum's hands a ton. It's a really good matchup against San Antonio. San Antonio this year, they've actually been playing super, super fast. They've been playing at the 5th fastest pace in the league. And in terms of defensive rating, I think they've been decent defensively. They've been about middle of the pack in defensive rating, but they do play San Antonio. They do play at a really fast pace. So, this is a game that I think we could see a, pretty high scoring game. Portland does play relatively fast as well. So I really like CJ McCollum here without Damian Lillard. I think, the upside's obviously there. He should probably be like 9K, 9,200. He's still a little bit underpriced in my opinion. And on Yahoo, his price didn't even rise, I don't think. It's still just $33. Really like CJ McCollum over there. And then the other guard, Anthony Simons, we saw him start in place of Dame last game. He should, once again be starting while Dame is out. I think Anthony Simons still looks like a really good play. $14 on Yahoo, $4,900 on Draftkings. He is still a guy that I do like a lot for value. He played 36 minutes last game in the starting lineup, was pretty productive, had 29 DK points. So far this season, when Anthony Simons has gotten minutes, he's been, close to a fantasy point per minute player. And especially without Dame, there's going to be, more usage, more production, or Simons should be more productive without Dame as well. He'll get some minutes too with CJ McCollum off the floor. He should be even more productive in those minutes. Anthony Simons, $4,900 still feels a little bit too cheap. I think we're going to continue to see his price rise while Dame is out. Like, he'll probably be, next slate, Simons will probably be like $5,500, closer to $6K. Like, we're still getting a discount on both him and McCollum. Then the rest of the Blazers, I think, are still viable. Like, Yusuf Nurkic at $7K. I think if this game does stay close, he plays around 30 minutes. Maybe his offense will see a little bit of a spike without Lillard. Maybe he'll be a little bit more aggressive offensively. Did have a pretty solid game last game against Detroit. 33 DK points in 27 minutes. I think he's a fine play. Not my favorite option. I'd rather play Ayton for a little bit more salary, but I think Nurkic is still viable. Norman Powell, if he does play, this will be something to keep an eye on because Norman Powell, I think without Dame, should be way more productive. And at 5,400, he would definitely be a guy that I would have a lot of interest in. But right now, we don't really have an update on Powell. This is the last game of the night, so I don't know when we're going to get any word on him. We might not get it till after lock. But if we do find out that Powell is playing, I definitely like Norman Powell at 5,400. And then Robert Covington, he's a fine option. He played 24 minutes last game. Really wasn't productive. He just hasn't been that productive this year. Even if Powell's out again, I really don't think I'm going to play Robert Covington. Larry Nance played 25 minutes off the bench. Maybe if Powell's out, we could consider Larry Nance for a value play. But I really think my main interest from Portland is, McCollum, Simons, and then Powell if he plays. I think Nurkic is viable too. Probably not going to go to anyone else, though. I know Dennis Smith Jr. played a little bit of minutes last game. He was pretty productive and had 24 DK points, but 17 minutes for Dennis Smith Jr. If he only plays like 17, 18 minutes, I'll just bank on him not scoring 24 DK points. I don't expect him to be that productive on a point per minute basis. Even at 3,500, I doubt I'd go to Dennis Smith Jr. I think that's it, though, for Portland, guys. I think that's it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, please do hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. And again, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH. When you do sign up, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. And you can take a look at PrizePicks platform. You can take a look at the props they already have available for Thursday night's NBA games. They'll have more stuff posted probably Thursday morning. They also have stuff posted for Thursday night football if you want to get some action in on that game. You can mix and match sports. You can win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. Sign up and use code NOAH, and they will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks so much for watching the video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.